Good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. It is so good to be together with you all this morning. I am Reverend Lane-Mairead Campbell, and I use they, them pronouns. I am the settled minister here at First Universalist. Joining me in leading worship this morning, Johanna Connolly, using she, her pronouns, our worship associate. The fabulous Dr. Brock Chesvold on piano and directing our choir, our music director using he, him pronouns. Reverend Michelle Yates telling our story this morning using she, her pronouns. And our tech assistant, Jack Cunningham, is sick today. So Emma literally rolled out of bed to come and to make sure that our service is going to be online. Special thanks to you, Emma Berry, for being our tech assistant this morning. Special thanks to Michael and to Lisa and to Charlie for setting things up before Emma got here. We thought we would be 10 minutes behind today, and it is a miracle. We're on time. So glad you all are with us this morning, folks who are joining us online. We also have Ezekiel McGee holding down our online ministry team using they, them pronouns. Ezekiel, thanks for your service this morning. If you are here for the first time or a second time or third time, we especially welcome you. Thank you so much for making it to First Universalist Church, whether you're joining us in person or joining us online. We have a visitors form that you can fill out so we can offer you a welcome beyond this space. Please check your order of service to scan the QR code or check the link in the chat for folks who are joining us online. We'd love to be able to offer you a welcome beyond just what we can offer here. After our service today, there will be coffee hour, both in person and online. So join us for some fellowship and some time to get to know one another and to build a community with each other. It'd be good to have y'all there. Every third Sunday, for folks who are visiting us, we have a UU session in the back of the sanctuary and online. It's happening today, so please join me back there after our receiving line if you'd like to ask some questions or learn a little bit more about First Universalist. Oh, gosh, before we take a moment to turn to our neighbors, both online and here in this sanctuary space, I'm going to invite us to connect our communities and to please turn towards Emma with the green camera to offer a wave from the sanctuary. Online folks, we're so glad that you're here with us this morning. Grateful that you're making it here. Grateful that you made it here. Oh, dear ones, let us greet one another. If you're online, please pop into the chat. If you're here at First Universalist, please rise in body or in spirit and offer one another a greeting. Dear ones, I'm going to invite you to come back from your conversations. We have a little bit of a raucous hymn to sing at the beginning of this time. And I know our choir is with us, thank God. So we are going to sing hymn number 407. We're going to sit at the welcome table. I'm going to invite you to sing it joyfully. It is a song that is meant to be sung joyfully. So let us rise in body or in spirit. If you'd like, the lyrics are in your gray hymnal or they'll be up here on the screen. We're going to sit at the welcome table this morning. Please be seated.
Good morning. Good morning. In 1983, the third Monday in January became Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Since his death in 1968, we have all been grappling with how to honor this legacy. A legacy about more than one man, yet also about a preacher, a teacher, an agitator, a voice, and a man. A legacy that calls us toward beloved community, a community where multiple viewpoints, experiences, and truths can be held. A legacy of action and following what we say with what we do. A legacy that was fought for, died for, and continues still in our present time. How do we honor this legacy? And how do we hold the teachings he and a whole generation of leaders left to us? Let us explore this morning. Come, let us worship together. As Dwight comes forward to light our chalice, and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and may we reach out to serve our community. Now may we say the affirmation of faith. Please rise in body or spirit. Followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. From all that dwell below the skies, Let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace on earth, goodwill be sung. Through every land, by every tongue. Our offering this morning goes to support Rural and Migrant Ministry, an organization First Universalist has been in faithful relationship with for over a decade. Rural and Migrant Ministry works for the creation of a just, rural New York State through nurturing leadership, changing unjust systems and structures, and standing with the disenfranchised, especially farm workers and rural workers. They have accompanied many through court processes and obtaining legal documents, and they do amazing work in youth empowerment, providing space for youth to claim their voices and build justice out of the common lived experience as growing up as immigrants in the homes of farm workers. Your generosity towards this organization goes a long way this morning to supporting people who grow our food and work the dairy farms in Western New York. You're invited to give online by scanning the QR code in your pews or to drop an offering in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity.
Good morning. Today's story, you have the pictures up here while I share this story, is The Boy Who Loved Everyone by Jane Porter and illustrated by Maisie Paradise Shearing. It was Dimitri's first day at his new preschool. He was very excited to be there. At story time, he rested his head on Liam's shoulder. "I love you, Liam," he said with a sigh. Liam didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. Once all the children stopped wriggling, the teacher began the story. It was about a dragon, a volcano, and a magic teapot. Dimitri thought it was an excellent story. At outdoor time, Sophie, Stella, and Sue laughed and played together like friends. "I love you," Dimitri said, trailing after them. The three friends blushed and giggled and then ran away. So Dimitri visited a big tree on the playground. Its leaves were shaped like hearts. "I love you, tree," he said and gave it a hug. The tree didn't reply. A line of ants marched by Dimitri. "Hello, ants," said Dimitri. "I love you too." The ants just kept marching. At lunchtime, Bertha served the kids lots of different foods. Dimitri was hungry and everything tasted delicious. "I love you, Bertha," said Dimitri. "You mean you love my cooking," said Bertha. After lunch, Dimitri said, "I love you" to the guinea pig. "I love you." And to the paintbrushes, who didn't seem to mind. "I love you." He also said, "I love you" to Big Andrew and Little Bee. "I love you." But whenever Dimitri said, "I love you" to them or to any of the kids, they only joked or blushed or turned away. In this picture, oh, I'm sorry, can you go back one? I want you to notice at the table on the far right in gray with kind of reddish hair, that's Dimitri from the beginning, or sorry, that's Liam from the beginning that Dimitri leaned his head on. And he is noticing Dimitri looking sad. When it was time to go home, Dimitri said goodbye to his teacher. He also told her, "I love you." "Dear Dimitri," she said, "I know you do. I'll see you again tomorrow, okay?" Dimitri walked with his mother, past the bakery, through the park, along the canal. On the way, they passed an old man sitting on a bench. He looked very tired. "I love you, old man," said Dimitri. "What do you call an old?" snapped the man. After that, Dimitri grew very quiet. At bedtime, Dimitri whispered, "I love you, Mom." "And I love you, Dimitri," she said. "You're my best, best boy." Dimitri smiled and sighed and went to sleep. The next morning, Dimitri told his mother that he did not want to go back to preschool. "Why not?" she asked. "Because not one person there said that they love me." Mom helped Dimitri put on his coat anyway and wrapped him up warm. People have lots of different ways of showing how they feel, she explained as they walked towards the canal. When you tell people you love them, she said, even if they don't say it back or show it, they feel it. That's just the way love is. It can't help but spread and grow. Dimitri and his mom passed the same old man sitting on the bench in the park. He had opened a can of tuna and was feeding it to stray cats. "You see," said Mom, "that's his way of saying I love you to the cats." In the park, they saw Bertha on her way to Dimitri's school too. She gave them a big smile and a wave. "Look," said Mom, "she's saying I love you with her smile." When Dimitri and his mom arrived at preschool, Mom said goodbye to Dimitri. Beneath the tree with heart-shaped leaves, Dimitri saw Sophie, Stella, and Sue feeding the birds. He watched the tiny birds hop with enjoyment, and he loved them right away. Dimitri wanted to join in the fun. but felt uncertain. Then Stella saw him. "Come, help us feed the birds, Dimitri," she said, and the girls shared their packets of birdseed with him. One bird even jumped onto Dimitri's hand and tickled his palm with its lightness. A warm feeling began to grow inside of Dimitri. A few moments later, Liam, from Storytime the day before, came over and gave Dimitri a kind hug. "Hello, my friend. Will you sit by me at Storytime again?" he asked. The warm feeling in Dimitri grew bigger. At Storytime that morning, everyone wanted to sit by Dimitri. They made quite a pile. The pile made the teacher laugh. "You funny children," she said, "I do love you." Then the teacher read them a story about a frog, a mountain, and a rabbit. Dimitri loved it. Everyone loved it. Even the guinea pig seemed to enjoy it. My favorite part of the story is when the mother says how when you tell people you love them in whatever way that you do, even if they don't say it back or show it, they feel it. That's just the way love is. It can't help but to spread and grow. I invite you to share your love in whatever way that you do, those 5 love languages and more, and to look for the ways that others are saying that they love you, and you might not even see it.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for your story this morning. And I know that one of the ways that we show and share love in this congregation is to take part in this ritual of joys and sorrows. We share them each week. And if you would like to, you can certainly place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a heart-centered place and a heart-centered space. Ready to go. Fantastic. As Johanna places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. And all our online are also invited to share joys and sorrows in the chat. This morning, we share a joy from Donna Anderson, who received good test results this week. Celebrating with wine and treats from friends. Thank you to our church community for all your good wishes. Good news, Donna. We are glad to celebrate with you. We have 2 joys this morning from Kitty Forbush. The first joy to see Ed Deller in person. Yay! Welcome back, Ed. Glad you're here. And the second joy was to be able to attend the Flush Forum here yesterday. So proud of our church. We hold also a joy from Lois Baum with much gratitude for all the support from this beautiful church family. I share an overwhelming joy that the love of my life, my husband, Greg, survived a stroke last Sunday. In addition to that, while hospitalized for 3 days at Highland, Greg was provided with delicious vegan food. Here's to good health. Glad you're back with us, Greg. Glad you've recovered. We share a sorrow this morning from Melissa Parrish at the loss of a dear friend, Judy Tobin. And I will also share a personal sorrow this morning with you all that my uncle, Stephen Hassel, died this past Thursday. An Awaken memorial service will be held January 19th and 20th, which I will be away attending this week. We will drop 1 stone into the bowl for all the joys shared by our online community. And we'll drop 1 stone to represent all of the sorrows shared by our online community. And we will drop 1 final stone into the bowl to hold and to represent all of the joys
and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Our meditation this morning is one that we are sharing with our sibling congregations in Rochester and in Canandaigua. Rather than me pulling together sort of a poetic prayer this morning, we will sit with the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. from his letter from a Birmingham jail. Just an excerpt. This letter came about in response to 8 white clergy publicly denouncing the civil rights movement's actions in Birmingham and all over the country. So I'm going to read his words aloud, and then we will sit in silence together for a full 2 minutes to allow the responses in us to come up and to marinate for a while. So I'm going to just invite you to take a deep breath, to sit back in your chair, your pew, your couch, wherever you find yourself. And to allow these words into your heart, into your mind, into your spirit. I must make 2 honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. In your statement, you asserted that our actions, even though peaceful, must be condemned because they precipitate violence. But can this assertion be logically made? Isn't this like condemning the robbed man because his possession of money precipitated the evil act of robbery? Isn't this like condemning Socrates because his unswerving commitment to truth and his philosophical delvings precipitated the misguided popular mind to make him drink the hemlock? Isn't this like condemning Jesus because his unique God consciousness and never ceasing devotion to his will precipitated the evil act of crucifixion? We must come to see, as federal courts have constantly affirmed, that it is immoral to urge an individual to withdraw his efforts to gain his basic constitutional rights because the quest precipitates violence. Society must protect the robbed and punish the robber. I had also hoped that the white moderate would reject the myth of time. I received a letter this morning from a white brother in Texas which said, all Christians know that the colored people will receive equal rights eventually, but is it possible that you are in too great of a religious hurry? It has taken Christianity almost 2,000 years to accomplish what it has. The teachings of Christ take time to come to earth. All that is said here grows out of a tragic misconception of time. It is the strangely irrational notion that there is something in the very flow of time that will inevitably cure all ills. Actually, time is neutral. It can be used either destructively or constructively. I am coming to feel that people of ill will have used time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. We will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. We must come to see that human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of men willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. We continue to breathe through it all. So let us join in hymn number 1009, Meditation on Breathing, sung from our seats, our hymn of contemplation. Breathe, breathe out, breathe in, breathe, breathe in, and breathe out, breathe, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe out. When I breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe, breathe out, breathe, breathe. I could hold that musical reminder every week to just keep breathing through it all. It's good to be here with you all this morning and to keep breathing through these times we are living through, to keep being together in this space, to keep coming together for worship. It is the closest Sunday to Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday. And so this morning, I, of course, am under obligation and maybe even contract to preach about justice with you all. But this, of course, is one of my favorite topics. And so I'm really delighted, especially to be here with you all today. There is no end to what can be accomplished by a group of dedicated people committed to justice, focused on what they need to do and secure in what is at stake in this justice struggle. There is literally no end. Unitarian Universalism is built on this basic premise. It is our call, and it is what we know. We are better together than we are alone. And we seek together for a more just, more equitable world than the one we live in today. This morning, I want to lift up with you all that justice is not solely about who we are, but about how we are with one another. It is about how we are in our relationships, in our communities, in the choices we make, in the things we do. King's words for the white moderate could have been written this morning. They could have been written in this city. In a city where so many white moderates have flown to the suburbs, leaving the city and its school district and its public services without tax dollars. In a city where we are fifth in the nation in childhood poverty rates, yet surrounded by villages and townships where the percentages are much lower, where children have better access to schooling that sets them up to succeed. In a city still segregated by redlining and housing developments, a plan which brought so much wealth to a few and has kept many in generational cycles of poverty. In a city like many other cities, I'd say most other cities in these so-called United States, where Sunday morning is still one of the most segregated hours. We have to be honest this morning. We have to be honest with one another.
We have to be honest about the ways our personal and community choices have shaped the community we are in. And we have to be honest also about the power we possess to shift that shape. We have to be honest, those of us who are white, about when the white moderate king is describing is us. When we ourselves have spoken of the time it takes for justice to come around, when we ourselves have remained silent, when we ourselves have tutted the strategies of movements leading towards justice in this city, focused on more justice, when we ourselves have been complacent and chosen complacency over actual peace. Justice is not solely about who we are. It is about how we are, what we do, how we are in relationship. Adrienne Maree Brown, one of my favorite current thinkers, writes in her first book, Emergent Strategy, about fractals and the relationship between the small and the large. She reminds us how we are at the small scale is how we are at the large scale. If we want to see justice on a larger scale, if we want to be part of larger movements for justice, we must start small. We must begin in the relationships we have in our everyday lives. We must start with what we know and who we know. For white folks in the room, this is not my invitation this morning to go out and befriend more people of color. That is not the justice this world needs. No. This is about bringing your justice commitments to those you are in relationship with already. To coworkers and family members and neighbors. This is about how we treat one another. It is not about lecturing our friends and family about one righteous cause or another. It is not about being right. It is not about being right. It is about how we treat one another and how we express the love we have for those around us by actively calling them into conversation, by listening, by being kind and understanding, by being alongside people. Justice lives in what we do, in how we show up with one another. In exploring the many times I have shown up as the white moderate, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. describes, I have to look at the times when I preferred to remain silent because I was afraid of being judged by others. When someone made a coded comment about how bad or unsafe the city is, and I just didn't interrupt them or ask what they meant because I preferred to remain comfortable. It is hard to risk status. It is hard to risk discomfort. And I do not know how we will see the larger justice shifts we want to see in our city and our community and our world without risking the loss of safety and comfort. I do not believe it is possible. I do believe in our collective power to risk. And I do believe that we can do hard things, especially when we are together. How we are at the small scale is how we are at the larger scale. Yesterday, a group of us gathered here with other members of the community to talk about 24/7 accessible toilets in Rochester's downtown. I know many of you were here, and I'm really grateful that you came. A group of leaders in our church share a vision for such a restroom downtown here because we want better for our community and our church. After years of having to clean up after this city's mess and also risking possible harm to ourselves, we are moving into an advocacy opportunity that has the capacity to change the shape of this city After years of our church providing restrooms for community events when no other ones were being unlocked or made available, we want better for our community and our church. And I have heard time and time again that our city is dealing with much bigger issues: gun violence, poverty, police brutality, a looming housing crisis, schools that are vastly unsupported, lack of jobs. You all know all of this. You know the list. You live here. How could we want to advocate for toilets in the midst of all of that? It is because we are starting small. And after yesterday, I'm not actually sure just how small of an undertaking this is going to be. I'm not going to lie. The further in we get, the deeper it gets. It's going to be a while, probably. I'm not going to say here, but it's going to be a lot of work. But we are starting small with a person's basic human needs. And we are starting there because we know that when people's basic needs are met, we are able to focus on the bigger, broader issues. We are starting small because we need some practice in how to organize together and build relationships with partners and members of the community. And I believe this church can begin there and have a huge impact on our city of Rochester, a huge impact on how we take care of one another and ensure that the needs of Rochester's citizens are met. The white moderate within can critique and talk about how insignificant all of this seems. It's not the perfect, most flashy project. It's toilets. And it's certainly not going to result in everyone loving us or thanking us. To provide for these basic needs opens up a whole host of other issues to deal with and problems to address. I was reminded yesterday that getting toilets is not going to address our issues with addiction or mental illness. They are not a solution to housing people, but they are a solution to being able to provide for a basic human need and right. It will not be straightforward and it will not be easy. It turns out that getting a small city with a tight budget to fund anything like this is not going to be easy, because if it was, Rochester would have done it already. But it's the smallness that makes this justice, advocacy, and action most powerful. The small nature of getting back to what people need the most at the most basic, fundamental level. There is no end to what can be accomplished by a group of dedicated people committed to justice, focused on what they need to do and secure in what is at stake in this justice struggle. And what I want to say about this is that we need one another. We need one another to move forward. And how we are together is just as important as what we accomplish. This is no time for harsh critique and tearing each other down. There is enough injustice in this world and enough cruelty. If how we get to a more just and equitable world is by hurting one another or not respecting each other or even tearing other people down, I don't think the work is building the world that we dream about. King's letter from a Birmingham jail came from white clergy offering criticism who didn't have the same skin in the game and who were publishing letters that questioned the strategy of the movement. And this was coming from clergy who had participated in some actions and showed up and answered the call to integrate their churches. This wasn't just the far right. Justice isn't about who we are. It's about how we are with one another. It's about the relationships we hold and tend to and develop. Let us commit together at the beginning of this year to recognize and own our strength and our power together. Let's commit to humbly examining our relationships with those around us and see where we might want to live into a different way of being with those we love. Let's remember that how we are in the small scale is how we are going to be on the larger scale. And let's roll up our sleeves and let's begin doing this work. This work of bringing accessible restrooms that serve our community here to downtown, where we worship and where some of us live. We are here in this city of Rochester, in the downtown, for a reason. Let's claim that reason and start small and see where it will take us towards more love, more justice, and hopefully, a more equitable city of Rochester. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Our closing hymn this morning is a hymn that actually comes out of a justice movement, hymn number 1023, Building Bridges. I'm going to invite us to sing it once through in unison and then twice through as a round. I'm looking at you, Brock. That sounds about right. So it's in your teal hymnals if you'd like. It's also up here on the screen. And please rise in body or in spirit and let's sing this hymn, a hymn of commitment. Just let's start. Building bridges between our divisions. Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame this morning. Let us read together our words printed on the screen and in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Dear ones, I'm going to invite you wherever you are to touch your heart, to place your hand over your heart, to connect to that heart-centered space and to take a look around at who is here with you. If you're joining us online, turn your view to gallery view. Take a look at who's here. Turn on your cameras if you're joining us online, if you can this morning. Take a look at who is here with you today. Dear ones, here in this space, let us remind ourselves we need one another. We need one another to keep moving forward in justice. We need one another for the long haul. Justice is not solely about who we are. It is about how we are together. So may you know, each and every one of you, that you are loved. And may you go and be that love to whomever you meet. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so.